Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, coming at you live to talk about episode 2 of the anime series Black Clover. And goddamn, man, was it a prerequisite in the, creation of this show to find the most absolutely abnormally annoying voice actors for the character of Asta? I called him a loud ass tuh in the previous episode discussion video. And I mean, it's astounding the attention to detail, the continuity in getting a voice actor. I don't know if it's the same voice actor or not, but whether it is or not, for the younger 10 years previous version of Asta, as we see called back upon in this episode, in the entirety of which is like almost all told a flashback. The younger estimation of Asta has the same kind of like drill to the skull voice as the elder. Every line of dialogue is being screamed Asta. I turned the volume down 2 or 3 times to the point where I can almost hear like the regular average dialogue. I can almost just barely hear it. And his voice as the younger Asta was still loud enough to pierce my eardrums, annoyingly. Everything else about the show I like. I like the aesthetics, I like the framework, I like the world building and the environment. I'm intrigued by it, compelled by it. The whole flashback, the dichotomy in the kind of person Yuno was as a young man and whom he's become, this very self-assured, confident magic wielder that he is in the here and now. To see him so timid, so easily brought to boil to cry outright with a crying baby, and it's like it was a great parallel that he's carrying a crying infant that only the sister could quell, because that noise, the noise of that baby crying, was the exact same level of decibel annoyance that every line of dialogue in the first episode of Black Clover Asta would utter was driving into my skull, and in this episode, the younger Asta, same thing goes. It was like 2 drills right into my head. you Apart from that, I mean, I probably could have entirely muted the audio for the episode and enjoyed it that much more, watched it like a silent film or something, because the whole relationship between Asta and Yuno, I love that they were so simpatico. I love that they were so closely knit, and that, Asta as a young man had already, in learning about the Wizard King, had already formulated this aspiration within himself to want to make everyone happier, to want to try to achieve for something greater, strive for something greater, coming from very humble origins, as I said in my episode 1 discussion video, being poor, being without, and everything like that. And he was very selfless. There isn't a selfish, sort of advantageous inspiration in his wanting this. Unless you kind of sort of arguably say, well, it is kind of selfish that, he wants to command this power so he can make everyone happy, that kind of thing. He wants to make everyone happy because that'll make him happy. Well, it is kind of selfish, I guess. Okay, arguably. Twist my arm, I'll agree with you. But, he has noble aspirations. For the loudmouth little he is, again, and they play back on his constantly asking the sister to marry him. She's a woman of the cloth. She's like, how are you not getting this? How are you still asking as like a teenager in the first episode after being flatly denied, and the reality of this scenario being brought forth by Yuno to you, that she's a nun? It's not gonna happen. You're gonna get none. Like, how is he still asking? He doesn't take no for an answer. He doesn't know when to quit. And on the one hand, in his aspiration to do something greater and grander and want to become the Wizard King, that's good. It's good that in his lack of being able to attain any usage of magic, he decided to train his body physically. It's something that came into play in, when we call back on the modern sequence where the, sort of black magic, wielding guy, or, the chain wielding guy in any case, was trying to steal, the four-leaf clover grimoire from, that's what came into play, making it that much easier once this black clover grimoire appeared for Asta to strike him down. It was his physicality, his physical strength, that amped up the entirety of the sort of demonic magic that he now suddenly has as an assistant to his whole effort and everything like that. So he's an underdog, and he's somewhat of an overachiever, not taking no for an answer, not being willing to quit. But I mean, how many times does he have to slam his head into a brick wall? Apparently, it's been one times too many, because he must be deaf to be talking so loud all the time. And calling back on the flashback itself, the flashback in the episode I thought was intriguing. Again, the dichotomy of Yuno as a character, who he was, who he's become, the confidence that he was imbued with, but also, it was something that was instilled in him based on his relationship with Asta. As we see, he's chosen to deliver a message from the priest, who is their caregiver, in lieu of, risking it being sent by Asta, who's just like, again, screaming me, even as the youth, me, let me do it, The father can't trust him. Forget it. We're not putting it in his hands. I got to send it to somebody I know will get the message delivered. So Yuno takes it, and of course this coincides with a drunkard bum trying to look for another easy drink, and he sees the glistening jewel that Yuno wears, and he's gonna steal it, and he's beating the hell out of him. And I like that even in the face of being beaten, we see a similar sort of dynamic between Asta and Yuno, in that even though Yuno was that much more timid and that much more, ready to boil, ready to, sort of give into his anxieties, he was still getting up off the ground again and again as well. After every subsequent smack from this drunkard bum, he would get back up, and he was actually starting to summon magic. I don't know if, at that early stage, if that's the first time he ever summoned magic, or if it would have been weaker than what it is as we see in the modern day. It's something that grows and evolves in strength. I don't know if he would have actually held up a fight against this guy, but we didn't even need to find out, because Asta, being concerned, he wants dinner, okay, well, can we, before he comes home, that kind of thing. It inspires him to go out looking for Yuno, because this is suspect. Why isn't he back yet? And so he intervenes, and he's not going to take no for an answer. Again, in his very honorable and esteemable going up against this drunkard bum, and every time this guy, he kicks him, he punches him, he knocks a tooth out, Asta's getting up again. No, you're not stealing that jewelry. No, you're not going to hit my friend again. And so that was impressive. It was impressive. I was instilled with, this sort of inspired quality of these characters. I was trying, gritting my teeth to get through the annoying vocal oscillations that were emanating from this character's craw, and so it's such a conflictual show, because I am enjoying watching it. I'm enjoying everything about it except for that goddamned voice, as both the younger version and the modern version. We've seen examples, and it's even at the end of this episode, we've seen examples where his voice is not screamy Mimi, where he does dial it back, and it's like, okay, why couldn't you just talk like that the whole time? We get it. You're cocked up. We get it. You're excitable. You're cocksure. You have this confidence, this bravado. You're going to try to conquer the world. We get it. Dial it back just a bit, just a tad. Just back away. Don't chew the mic. Back away from it a little bit. That's my only qualm with this show. With all of that said, as much as I enjoyed these first two episodes thus far, I'm still undecided as far as, episodic video coverage and or write-ups. I really don't know. I feel like my frustration is mounting with the voice acting of this character. I'm hoping it's not going to tip the scales by the end of episode 3 to the point where I just don't want to sit through this anymore. I know a lot of people already didn't even make it through the first episode of this anime series, and they already dropped out of it because of that. But I want to give it a chance because I am digging the story so far. Even though a lot of people have said, oh, this is, been there, done that, 6 Ways to Sunday. Well, I don't watch shows like this that often, so a lot of this stuff, a lot of these tropes are new to me personally. So that's why I want to give it a chance. And I want to see, if the story's worth sticking with. So I'm going to watch episode 3. If something spectacular or resounding happens afterward, I might come back and talk about it. But that, this video right here that you're watching right now might be the end of my discussing the show, at least in video format. There's still always a chance, even if I decide to quit that, I'm going to pick it up in write-ups over on my Facebook account. You can always choose to friend me there if you so desire, so we can have back and forth discussions about any and all anime series that I don't happen to be covering in episodic video discussions and such like that. But I leave that to you, the humble viewer, and so yeah. Otherwise, I'd love to hear from you guys what you thought of this particular episode of Black Clover, if you even bothered watching it. If you did do you agree with me that the constant, indefatigable, whatever the word is, problem, is that voice. That voice, no matter the age of Asta, it is the problem. It is the problem that will not go away. Everything else, whether you love it or hate it, just post your thoughts below and we can have a great discussion. But oh my god, that voice. That voice. I'm thinking about, getting those like earphone things that they sell at like gun shows and things that'll just dull the volume of all the sounds outwardly. Maybe I can actually get through an episode without cringing about 90% of it. But yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.